Hi, I'm Henri Schoeman. I'm from South Africa, triathlete, 2016 Rio Olympic Games bronze medalist, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I trust you've been having a great week, and I hope you've been out there pursuing your physical best, whatever that may look like for you, and kicking some goals and getting some wins along the way. I hope you enjoyed last week's guest. That was Mr. Josh Harris, Australian marathoner, who is getting ready in the final weeks to his first international World Athletics Championships, where Josh will be representing Australia in the marathon. So if you did miss Josh Harris on last week's episode 64 of the Physical Performance Show, be sure to jump back and you'll enjoy the learnings and the teachings from Josh around all things marathoning. He's quite a character, so you'll really enjoy his Aussie bloke ways. Today's show is lovingly brought to you, as always, by POGO Physio. We exist to help you perform at your physical best, and we do this through Australia's first fixed price, unlimited access finish line programs. Our finish line programs are 2, 6, and 12 weeks in duration, and what they do is they allow the consumer of physiotherapy and healthcare services who are looking to rehabilitate or find their physical best around injury to get an outcome that is truly remarkable. So gone are the pay-as-you-go ways where you pay every time you come in and out of a practice. You pay one fee and it gives you complete access to hands-on treatment, to exercise rehabilitation, including state-of-the-art equipment such as the AlterG anti-gravity treadmill. There's other services such as podiatry and remedial massage available as well. And the beauty is that the outcomes are extraordinary. It gives consumers certainty of outcome and certainty of spend. And that's much appreciated by the people that have graduated through the finish line programs to date. If you'd like more information about POGO Physio's industry first finish line programs, then be sure to jump over to pogophysio.com.au and there you can read all about them. And in addition to that, note that we insist on 1 hour initial appointments. We call our initial consultations our Discover Recover session. And in some cases, people need to return for a second 1 hour. We believe in going slow to go fast. Quite simply, it means that we need to get you an accurate diagnosis. Without that, it doesn't matter what treatment you have, how many times you go, you're potentially going to be spinning your wheels, working on something that may have been misdiagnosed through one of my pet peeves about healthcare, and that's short initial appointments. So do it the right way the first time and check out the Discover Recover sessions at POGO Physio. Now, if you're not in Queensland, be encouraged. POGO Physio, through our POGO Partners program, will be coming to other states of Australia commencing the back half of 2017. A massive thank you, as always, to the listeners who are leaving reviews. A massive thank you for you today for tuning in, whether it's your first time or your 65th time. Big thank you to today's reviewer, Mr. Bruno Rubello. And a heads up, Bruno is a physiotherapist at POGO Physio, but Bruno has jumped on and rated the program 5 stars. I know Bruno's a regular listener of the program, and here's what Bruno has to say. I thoroughly enjoy this show, and I must say hats off to Brad for an amazing job in extracting the best out of these high performers. I have been a physiotherapist for 14 years now and thoroughly enjoy the key messages and learnings I take home from these podcasts. Keep up the good work. Bruno was a physiotherapist, interestingly, at the Rio Olympic Games, working in the weightlifting arena. So it's a nice parallel and a nice segue to today's guest, and that is Mr. Henri Schoeman. Henri is a triathlete who has done remarkable things in his career to date. None more so than winning the bronze medal in the Rio 2016 Olympic Games, winning South Africa's first Olympic medal in the sport of triathlon. Henri came home in bronze there, with a bronze, I should say, behind Alistair, the reigning Olympic champion, and his brother Johnny, both the boys hailing from the UK. That was definitely Henri's breakthrough performance. But outside of an Olympic medal, which is every athlete's dream, Henri's also tasted success, particularly just a few weeks after the Rio Olympic Games were run. Henri ran through to take the grand final win in the ITU World Triathlon Series in what has been perhaps one of the most famous finishes in the sport of triathlon, and indeed one of the most famous finishes, I believe, in sport in general. And that was where Henri ran to the line to take the win with a failing Johnny Brownlee, who was stopped, who was assisted, I should say, when his brother Alistair, the Olympic champion, stopped to assist him. So on this episode, Henri talks us through that finish, what it was like, what it's been like since, and the highs and the lows of his journey in general. Henri came from a swimming family where his brother represented his country of South Africa at 2 Olympic Games. Henri himself found himself into the sport of triathlon young in years, and he talks us through some of the challenges he had as he transitioned over to the rigours of running with a swimming body, the years of stress injuries that his body sustained. And he goes right through to talk about practical training tips, what he's needed to do to get the best performance out of himself to date, including working specifically on the bike to improve his power as one of the smaller guys on the circuit. Henri also shares around his views for the future, what he believes it will take to be at the pointy end of things come Tokyo 2020, which is certainly one of Henri's aims. And Henri also touches on the Super League Triathlon Series, which is where I first connected with Henri, doing some physiotherapy work for the series on Hamilton Island earlier this year. You'll hear me remark that Henri is one of the most astute technicians in the sport of triathlon. If you see Henri swim, bike or run, he looks beautiful across all 3 disciplines. So if you're a triathlon lover, this is a real treat. If you're a lover of multisport, this is a real treat. And if you're a lover of physical performance, as I suspect you are if you're tuning into this program, then you're in for a real treat. So let's jump straight in with Mr. Henri Schoeman. Listeners, this is a real treat, and I'm catching up with Henri Schoeman, bronze medalist at the Rio Olympic Games in triathlon and grand final winner in Cozumel 2016 last year for the World Triathlon Series. And Henri's an athlete that I greatly appreciate. What a beautiful and smooth mover he is. So he's one of those guys that you could watch for hours just with the fluidity of his movement. So Henri Schoeman, absolutely great to catch up with you this morning here at my time, evening your time.
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for having me on here. It's great to be able to chat to you guys and let all the audiences hear some of my stories. It's great to let people hear and hopefully inspire.
Well, Henri, let's start with something a little bit fun and thought-provoking. What's one thing that scares Henri Schoeman?
Okay, there's a couple of things, but I think the 2 big ones are spiders and heights.
Spiders and heights. So any examples of the height situation where you might have been either prepping for a race or at an event and you had a heights encounter?
No, it's just, I'm really like the outrageous type, and I'd really like to go skydiving or bungee jumping, but just the thought of being that high or doing something that's scary really scares me. So I really want to do that one day, but it's just so scary for me to do it. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And spiders, I'm okay with like the friendly ones, but the colorful ones and the poisonous ones. If I see one, I'll freak out. If there's one in the room, I will not sleep that night until it's dead or something. But so I'm just pretty cautious with that.
And hello to all the animal activists out there.
Yeah.
So
no, I really love animals though, but spiders I can't deal with.
It tends to be a theme though, Henry, with the triathletes I interview on the program. It's snakes or spiders. It tends to be universal. I caught up with a marathoner yesterday here in Australia who's made his first Australian team for the upcoming World IAAF Championships, and his fear mate was snakes. So snakes and spiders it is. Henry, 2016 was a really breakout year for you. You'd been putting in some hard yards, relatively under the radar or the world's attention, in the preceding years. But 2016, mate, what a standout year. An Olympic medal, South Africa's first in the triathlon, then the grand final win in Cozumel, and just outstanding, your first sub 30-minute run off the bike. But if you had to pick your greatest physical achievement to date throughout your career, what would it be?
Yeah, like you said, 2016 was definitely a year to remember and a standout year for me. Definitely one of my biggest breakthroughs was the Olympic Games, and I think that is definitely a standout achievement for me. Growing up as a little kid, I always wanted to represent my country and race at the Olympics. My first initial quest was to qualify in swimming. But that just never happened. I'm a very small physique body, and when I reached my later teens, I realized that swimming's just not going to cut it for me. I was really good in my younger years, but then when I stopped growing, I stopped improving. So, I took on triathlon, and that started really going well. In the beginning, I really struggled to get into running after swimming for so long. Floppy joints, weak bones, weak muscles. I had stress fractures in both my shins when I started running pretty hard, and it just took me like a good 3-4 years just to get running going. And since 2013, I gradually got better and better and better, and to be able to walk away with an Olympic medal in Rio last year is just, that's a phenomenal result, and it's something I will cherish for the rest of my life. I will definitely push myself and get hopefully high on the step in 4 years or 8 years' time. And I think that's just one memory I'll never forget.
Oh, and it was spectacular. I mean, you were, coming in behind the Brownlee brothers, Alistair and Johnny, there at Rio, and you got off the bike. I'm an avid triathlon lover. I grew up with the sport. That's what I wanted to do as a career, that or physiotherapy. And you're up there off the bike, and you must have known getting off the bike the form that you were in. Although you did have an interesting story leading into the race, didn't you? But you must have known that you're in with a mix, getting off that bike and almost tasting a potential medal, right?
Yeah, it wasn't an easy race. First of all, just getting to the start line was quite a story. And just to be in the race, I was really excited. And, I didn't feel my best on the bike, so I was a little bit concerned, trying to just not work too much in front of the race, but I did my fair share sometimes. And on the run, I just wanted to go my own pace. Didn't want to blow any chances, and I found myself running in fourth, and I was fairly comfortable, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm at the Olympic Games and I'm running in fourth, and I think I could be able to do this if I just grit my teeth and hold it tough, and after one lap I found myself passing Vincent Louis, and I realized I'm actually running in a bronze medal spot. So that was really exciting stuff. I had goosebumps and cold shivers when I realized, what I'm actually doing. But you got to just calm yourself down and just think about, process goals and think about what you're doing right now and make sure that you complete each lap as best you can, get one foot in front of the other, and not think too much about the end result. And I think it was like the last 200 or 100 meters I realized the medal is mine, and I was pretty ecstatic. The emotions were just going wild, and it was really, really exciting.
What a moment. I mean, what was going through your head? You said, you got to do the process things. What was the internal talk like, Henri, once you ran up into third place, passing Vincent Louis? What were you going through? What was going through your head?
Well, yeah, when I caught Vincent Louis, I knew, okay, this is probably going to be a tough race for a medal. And when I caught him, I realized he was actually struggling a bit, and I didn't want to lose my pace, so I actually accelerated a little bit. And I looked behind me, and I already had a gap. So I think that was a really strong motivator for me. And then I set my sights on the brownies in front of me, but they were really strong on the day, and there was no ways I was going to catch them. Even when Johnny dropped off from Alistair, I tried my best to pick it up, but I just didn't have it in me to bridge that gap or anything. But yeah, it was, you're trying to just stay strong, and you got to have a strong head, and especially in triathlon. If you have any negative thoughts, it's just going to break you down, and your body's just going to start accepting that and start shut down. If you keep positive and strong thoughts, and you've just got to have a tough mind, it will get you through that race. It's not always about the physical abilities, but I think most times the winners are the strong heads and the guys that are able to push through that pain the longest.
Yeah, I mean, it's at that level. There's often not a lot between it, is there? It does come down to the psychology. So is there any vivid recollection of, one, what went through your head just as you're about to cross the tape and take the bronze medal behind Alistair and Johnny? And then two, what went through your head the moment you had crossed the line? And I mean, your father, who's your coach, and you guys are very close. What was the first conversation you had? So a couple of questions there, Henri.
Yeah, it's actually a really tricky one, asking what thought was going through my mind. I think there must have been thousands, but I think, the main thing is, I think that at that moment I realized, all the hard work pays off, and something that I've been working for my entire life has come true. It's like a dream coming true, and I was just so excited. I was over the moon. I was actually full of energy. I felt like I could have done another race. I think the adrenaline was so high, but I just I didn't get on a call with my family and my girlfriends immediately because I wasn't sure where my phone was, and only when I got into doping control after the medal ceremony, the press conference, I had a chance to get onto my phone and give my parents a call, and my girlfriend was also there, and it was just like screaming and really high emotions when I called them. So that was a really great moment.
Absolutely. And I mean, but it's not the first Olympic outing for your family, Henri. Your brother, Rian, I think it is, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, dual Olympian, right? Beijing and London in swimming. So there's a bit of an Olympic streak through your family. Any other Olympians in your family?
No, it's just my older brother. And it's been great that he's been able to go to 2 Olympics. He's one of the people that inspired me to get to the Olympics. He's showed me the dedication and the hard work and what it takes to get to the Olympics. So I learned a lot from him in that way, and also leading into Rio, he taught me a lot of how to deal with the Olympics and some of the experiences that you'll experience, and I think that was a great help to me.
What practically did Rian share with you, Henri? Was there anything that really jumps out that you can remember in terms of how to deal with the Olympics?
Yeah, I think with South Africa, there's a lot of politics that are involved, and you just got to try and stay out of that. there's a lot of pressure from them on all the athletes, and also just how things work. But I guess it's fairly well known, but is that the Olympics, you live in a big village, and there's always lots of walking involved to get to the dining hall. The security processes of getting to venues, you've just got to plan everything so well, time everything, how long it takes to get to the swimming pool or the running track or the dining hall, so that you can plan your whole day and minimize as little walking as possible and moving around as possible, so that you can spend as much time with your legs up resting for your race, especially triathlon, because it's an endurance race and you are going to be using your legs for most of the race, and you need to not be walking around too much.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, the Olympic Village is not a small scene or site,
like a
right?
small little town.
Yeah, incredible. And is there a bit of brotherly competition now, you with an Olympic medal and Henri between you boys? Or are you quite supportive of each other?
Oh, no, not at all. It's I think he was so happy for me. He was over the moon.
Yeah.
I think we have a good relationship, and I think when we're swimming, when we're both swimming, we're really competitive.
Yep.
I just wanted to try and get as good as Rion and try and beat him sometimes in training, but he was always better in the racing. But now that he's retired and moved on, and I think he's just so supportive of me. He really wants to help, and he wants the best for me.
Did you travel to either Beijing or London with Rian, your brother and your family, or did you stay at home and watch?
I went to Beijing to watch.
Yep.
But we were kind of like involved in one of those big scams, and we paid all this money for all the tickets and accommodation and things, and we actually lost all of that. So we only got into one of the swimming events.
Yep.
And yeah, so at least I got to experience that. The rest I kind of watched on TV, but at least we were there for Rion in Beijing. But London, I was back home training for triathlon and we're just watching on the TV.
Yeah, gosh, and at Beijing, could you have imagined, the years of age that you were at that point, that in 2 Olympics you'd be taking home an Olympic medal?
It's always been the dream and what you work for, but
yeah,
it's hard to still think of it now and realize that I've actually got one of those medals. It's crazy.
Yeah. Beautiful, mate. And you mean triathlon? There's not a lot of medalists on the medal board, the honour roll, right? It's still a relatively new sport. I mean, that was the 4th iteration of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, it's still very new.
Sorry, Henry, 5th.
Yeah, it's still very new. The first one was in 2000. So it's come a long way since. There's a lot of changes not changes, but different levels that have come out every 4 years. Like with the Brownlees, when they started dominating, they brought the invincible, like strong swim, strong bike, strong run, and it's just got better from there. And running has just been getting faster and faster, and that's like, in this era, it's all about running like sub 30-minute 10K. And I think in 3 years' time, it's going to be a sub 29 minutes. So it's definitely going to get faster. And the good thing is I'm still improving, but you just have to improve quicker than the top guys are improving. So that's my goal, is to just be one of the fastest runners. I've got the strong swim nailed down. I think I'm fairly strong on the bike, especially the hills. I struggle on the flats because I'm so light.
Yep.
Featherweight, but
what is your racing weight, Henry?
It's like about 57 kgs.
And I mean, that's obviously such an asset, when you put the shoes on, T2, you are one of the most graceful moving runners, Henry. I admired your form there at Super League when I was up there doing some physio duties earlier this year on Hamilton Island, and you just move so beautifully. It's fantastic to watch, and it's terrific. And Henry, you mentioned there, growing up, it was always the dream. The Olympics were always the dream. But what was your first recollection of a triathlon? I mean, on your Instagram gallery, there's a photo of you getting out of a swim exit, running next to a gentleman fully grown, and you look like you're all but maybe 10 years. So what was your first recollection of triathlon?
I was pretty much involved with triathlon since a young age. Just doing the fun race here and there. Swimming was always the focus growing up, but yep. I did the occasional provincial championships, sometimes the national championships, and I did really well. I think I've won a couple SA titles. I've won a few provincial titles. So I was pretty good without any specific training, just with that base from swimming. And when I stopped improving in the swimming, I decided, okay, it's time to go for that triathlon.
And you mentioned, and you picked up 2 South African junior titles, I believe, back to back in the under-19s there. So you obviously found some form relatively soon. But you did mention you struggled for 2 years with stress injuries. I think you might have said of the shins when you transitioned across. And I know as a physio, Henri, that's so often evident when you've got gifted natural swimmers who, as you say, normally have that hypermobility in their joints coming over to the impact loading of running. Bony injuries certainly can be the result. So were they stress fractures or stress reactions, Henri, and where were they?
Yeah, it was stress fractures. I actually had it after that last junior SA title, even though it was a 5K race. I think it's just you have that huge engine capacity, but your muscles just can't support the fast running. And I didn't realize at the time that I had the stress fractures, but I couldn't walk for a week. I couldn't run for quite some time. It was just quite a struggle. And then I decided to see a doctor, and he recommended having some bone scans. And the bone scans showed 2 stress fractures in the tibial shin, in the right side, and it was 1 stress fracture on the left. But obviously it had already calcified, so it already happened, and I just had to take it from there and take it all the way back and start from the basics. It never really got going though until I shattered my collarbone in a mountain bike crash in 2011, and that kind of gave me that forced rest. I'm always I always try and push the boundaries, and I think I just didn't rest enough. And with that collarbone crash, I was running aqua jogging in the pool every day. I was cycling on my indoor trainer every day, and I spent a lot of time strengthening the feet, the shins, the legs, all the way from the bottom up. And I found when I started running, it just started slowly getting better and better and better.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it is a conditioning process. It certainly is. And, the loading of the bones, and it can be such a delicate cycle. And I mean, I noted recently, Henri, there on your Instagram gallery, an image of you doing a side plank on a Bosu ball. And, your description, your caption was, you're doing your core workout between 30 and 60 minutes 3 times a week. Obviously, with the mobility in your system, that's genetic. You've learned as a mature athlete now to buffer that. So that core work, so to speak, that stability work, obviously is a big part of your program today.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that the small things are sometimes the more important things. Definitely learned from my experiences, from the stress fractures, that you just got to keep all the muscles strong and working, because if you have a weak link in the system, everything's just going to fall apart. So I believe in keeping everything strong and activated, and I find that really helps my running as well. And I just stay strong. I stay injury free. So you just got to focus on the small things too. You can't forget about them.
Absolutely. And I mean, that program, just practically, Henri, is that something you've programmed yourself or through your father, who's obviously, you coaches you, or is that something that a strength and conditioning coach there in South Africa or around the world's prescribed for you, Henri?
growing up in a swimming in a good swimming squad, we pretty much did core almost every day. So we were really disciplined with that. And I know that with running, it requires like a bit of different core work and exercises and different muscles to strengthen. And I think I've just had that discipline since, and I'm really good with it. That I spend at least 3 to 2 sessions a week, and they are between 30 and 60 minutes to make sure I keep strong.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's your favourite stability core exercise, Henri? Any that stand above the others? Love-hate relationship, maybe?
I quite like I do this type of bridge core workout. I probably spend about 6 to 7 minutes in a bridge position. It's a normal bridge, and then you go on one side, you do a couple things, go back to the normal bridge, go to the other side, do a couple things, go to the normal bridge, do a couple things, and then I do that again with like a couple different like exercises, and it takes about 6 or 7 minutes, and that's really, really good because it's really gets the sweat going, and it really fatigues you towards the end. And I think that's really good because it's just like triathlon. You fatiguing so much towards the end of a race. You need to be able to stay strong and hold your body in the right position. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, from a physiotherapy perspective, it's got that injury minimization aspect, but then it's also got, as you just touched on, Henri, that performance optimizing aspect about quality of your movement, etc. I think, mate, we're going to need a snippet of you doing some of the core work, mate, on Instagram, and we can direct listeners over there. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. One day I can do that. Yeah, I'll give a little tip and some core work.
Beautiful, mate. So we'll look for that after Leeds. Obviously, you're sitting, getting ready for another round of the World Triathlon Series just in a few days' time. So, mate, if you want to do it after Leeds, we give you a few days' grace. Mate, talking about other races.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go, Henri.
Oh, I was just going to say I actually had a little core workout here in my hotel room earlier today.
We missed it. We missed it. Well, Henri, talking about the World Triathlon Series, last year, breakout year, we've referenced that, the Olympic medal, South Africa's first in triathlon, held off a fast finish in Richard Murray, previous guest of the program, episode 51. Listeners, if you missed Richard, Henri's fellow countryman from South Africa. But, mate, you took the grand final win there, your first ITU World Series win in Cozumel. Extremely hard conditions, 36 degrees Celsius. And I know you've been interviewed about this, I'm sure, many times, Henri. But for the listeners' benefit, we need to go here. It's one of the most famed and fabled, I think, finishes in sporting history, let alone the sport of triathlon, where obviously Johnny Brownlee up the front looking for his a World Championship Series win, and in the lead, hits the wall big time in the heat, which we've seen the Brownlees, particularly Johnny, suffer from previously. Alistair, his brother, runs around the corner, helps him, and you come around the corner and obviously do what any athlete would do, in the moment. And that's, it's a race you ran through, crossed the line, your first win, incredible moment. Fair and square, but there was a fair bit of, there was some negative stuff that arose from that, wasn't there, Henri? And I mean, as a bylooker looking on, I was saddened a little bit by some of the, I guess, harshness around comments relating to the fact that you took the win. I mean, what else were you going to do, Henri? And I know it's all okay between you guys, it's racing, right? But how did you process that, Henri? I mean, you've just come off the back of a whole lot of love at the Olympics just a few weeks earlier, and then you go and execute another incredible race, win it fair and square, and a few people said you should have stopped for Johnny Brownlee. I mean, how did you process that, Henri? That must have been difficult for you.
Yeah, exactly like you said. I've come off the Olympic Games literally from nowhere. No one knew me. I just wanted to end off the season as best I could with a lot of pressure on my shoulders. I executed that race brilliantly, and I think that's the only reason why I was so ecstatic at the end and really happy for what I've done. There were many negative comments. At first, I was a bit taken back. I was a bit emotional about it. But, after speaking to some people and realizing that these people are on Twitter or wherever they making comments, it doesn't matter. There's so many people out there that get this backlash. I mean, if you think about Cristiano Ronaldo, if he misses a goal in some major tournament, imagine the outlash he would get on Twitter. It's probably a million times worse than mine. But you can't look at that stuff. Like you said, it's a race. We're there to win. It was great sportsmanship from Alistair to help Johnny. I think it was very moving. I was a little disappointed because I was with the Brownlee 1-2 in Rio overshadowed my bronze medal a little bit, and with that incident in Cozumel, it also overshadowed my win. So I was a little disappointed that I didn't get the full credit and things like that, because what can you do? It's a race. Like you said, it's 36 degrees. You got to get your nutrition right. You got to be race smart. You can't go and attack halfway through the run and know that you will be able to withstand that pace. It was a tough one to swallow, but I was really happy with my results. I try to keep the momentum going in this year, and it's eventually got going, and hopefully I can do a similar thing on the podium this year again.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. It's the same conditions for everyone, as you say, and it's racing. It really is. But I mean, one of the benefits I see as a triathlon fan and someone that cares about the sport is, I mean, that incident really took triathlon into lounge rooms and into people's devices and grasp their attention that otherwise wouldn't have known of triathlon. So you really have been part of some historical moments already, Henri. So you're writing chapters in the triathlon history book. Henri, your first World Series debut, I believe, was 2013. How did that one? I think this is just a nice little moment of reflection to encourage listeners that you didn't come into the World Triathlon Series podium in and mixing it and beating the Brownlees. You came in differently, right? I believe you struggled with your run initially in your debut. Is that right?
So my first one was in San Diego, 2013. Just a story behind that as well is that my parents paid for my tickets to get there. Just had enough, and I kind of messed it up. I had like some dehydration issues, and I knew I was running well, but I think, as a youngster getting into a WTS race, it's really tough. And after a strong swim and being in a bike breakaway with like the best guys in the sport, really took its toll on me. And I think I was just completely shattered by the time I got to the run. But, my parents took out a loan for me to get to my next race, and that was in Yokohama. And it was there where, again, strong swim. I got into the breakaway. I was with Jonathan Brownlee and Javier Gomez in that break. And we actually made like some ridiculous gap against the chasers. It was raining down. Yeah. And we had like about a 2-minute gap, I think, over the next group. And I managed to run myself into 6. And that was like a massive breakthrough. I got the prize money. I paid my parents back the loan. I got another ticket to Kitzbühel, where it was that famous hill or mountains, shall I say. And I did really well there. It was even better. It was a 4th. So it was really good financially, and that kind of got my funded my next races. And and from there, I just knew, this is where I need to be. This is what I'm made for, and I think that just kept me pushing harder and improving and getting better. I think one of the main things that helped me was to be able to experience the racing from the front end, being involved in breakaways and working hard on the bike. I think that really fine-tuned me into the athlete I am today, is to be able to execute the race as perfect as possible. I know what it takes to get on the bike and make sure to be in that breakaway, because the guys push it really hard that first 1K, one lap. That's really where it counts, to be in a breakaway or in the front end of the race. And just to be able to be in every race in that situation, I've learned and I've got stronger, and I've got that experience now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a swim's such an asset. You know, you're always coming out the front in that, you know, out of the water somewhere in that front pack. Henri, you're not immune to adversity. I mean, leading into Rio, you came down with the flu and just got clearance from your doctor, I believe, to race the event. And then, the first round of the WTS World Triathlon Series 2017 Abu Dhabi, you had another incident. But can you take listeners through firstly the Rio illness and how you overcame it, and then secondly what happened at the start of 2017 in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, sure. You prepare your, how can I say it, the last 15 years of training and preparation all comes down to like some flu before a race. It's quite a hard one to digest. It was very emotional. I honestly thought I wasn't going to be able to race because you got to look after your health at the same time, and if you've got high temperatures and you're very sick, you can't race, especially if it's hot and it's a tough course, and it's just gonna not happen, and I was put on some antibiotics. The doctors were trying to boost me with vitamins and everything to make sure that can get healthy. And I think that was one of the main things that was really good for my head at the Olympics, is that I was 100% focused on myself and my body and making sure that I get 100% better, so that I'm not overthinking about the race or other athletes or getting intimidated or thinking tactics or anything about the race. I was just 100% focused on myself getting healthy so that I can get to the start line. And it was the day before the race, my fever came down. I started feeling a lot better, and that night I knew, okay, tomorrow I'm racing. So that was really awesome.
So you reckon it was almost like a positive? It just distracted you away from thinking about any of the energy detracting thoughts and kept you focused on yourself. And you came out, and did you feel good that day? Did you feel on, or was it still a struggle through Rio?
I think I felt fresh because I didn't do all the training that I needed to. There were a couple of days I didn't even train. Like another couple of days I was kind of like trying to train and didn't really get that happening. So I was a little bit sluggish because I wasn't as sharp as I wanted to be. And I didn't feel... I guess the swim was okay. I had a good swim. I was up there near the front. But the bike, I really did struggle a little. By the 6th, 7th, 8th lap, I really had to grit my teeth to get over the hill. And I just knew that once the bike was done, hopefully I just have to feel good and I can finish this run. I felt a lot better than I thought. So that was awesome. And
then, mate, in Abu Dhabi this year, those that follow you on social, and if you don't, then jump over and follow Henri. You have a great gallery. here's a photo of you sitting in a hospital bed with ECG leads across your chest with your thumbs up. You were featured prominently in that race at the front of it. It was a hot day, as you'd expect. Hot conditions, racing conditions, which you seemed to really thrive in. What happened there, Henri? Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I was in some good shape and really expecting a good race, and the first part of the racing was actually really good. It turned out that I had a viral infection already brewing in my system, and I think that really took its effect towards the end of the race, especially with it being quite warm, and actually quite a tough race because it looked flat, but it actually wasn't. And yeah, it was all good in the beginning of the run. I felt great, but then after 1K, it just started getting worse and worse and worse. The last lap, I actually don't remember much. It was kind of like just my head spinning and like one big blur. I got over the line and I was like, I collapsed, and I didn't really know what was really going on around me, and the doctors were really concerned. They thought I had some asthma attack. I was really struggling to breathe, and it took me a really long time just to gain some sort of focus because everything was just like a blur. So they took me to hospital and they just wanted to do all the checks and everything. I think it was good to do that. You don't want to mess around with your health. No. And it all came back good. There was some slightly elevated levels, but I guess that's part of racing. Any athlete would have that. And everything is all good. The heart is healthy. The body was good. And I actually came down with a very bad flu and sickness after that. So I think, there was something definitely brewing, and I think it took its toll when I raced in Abu Dhabi.
And then, a few weeks later, you're out here in Australia in, once again, incredibly hot conditions up at Hamilton Island for the Super League Tri-Series. But, you raced strongly there, but I think there must have still been some effects of that illness floating around in your system. What were there?
Yeah, definitely. I think traveling back home wasn't the best thing. I should have probably gone straight to Australia. Traveling back home, and I think it was literally 4 or 5 days later on a flight to Australia, and that's a 8-hour time difference. So being sick, having jet lag, trying to recover from a very tough race that I had, I think the body just needed a bit of time to recover. And by the time Super League came around 2 weeks later, my body just wasn't 100% ready. The first day was really tough. The second day, I actually started feeling a bit better. And the third day, I came through a lot better, surprisingly. So I think maybe if it was 2 or 3 days later, I probably would have had different results. But that's just how things go. And you just got to make sure you got to try and keep your body as healthy as possible. And at this level, with a lot of traveling and across different time zones, is very tough.
Absolutely. I know Rich Murray, your countryman there, he'll travel with a surgical mask on the plane. And I said to Richard, do you do that always? He said, yes. And my wife's a medical doctor. And I said, honey, do they work? And she said, absolutely. Absolutely. So there's that aspect of keeping yourself well also. Will we see you for future editions of Super League, Henri?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I definitely have a point to prove. I feel I can do a lot better than, I think I was 11th. I think I can do a lot better than 11th. And I really want to do well in something that's completely different. I think it's a great concept. I think it's really made for me. I love racing over 3 days. As you could see, I got stronger and stronger. I think a lot of the guys were fatiguing where I got stronger, and that's something that I thrive with. So definitely at the next one, I'm going to be there, and
Great.
hopefully it'll be a different type of racing for me.
Brilliant. And listeners, if you miss Super League, you can jump over, find it readily online. Well worth tuning in to see the exciting racing that we're referencing. Henri, we're going to do a performance round, mate. So this is a little bit like a fartlek session. So I'm going to throw you some questions for some rapid fire responses. Are you ready?
Okay, let's go for it.
Training session you most dislike?
Probably like a very hard pulling swimming session.
Training session you most love?
It would be on the track, five 1000s with a 2-minute rest.
And what splits would you be coming through on those in ideally?
Around 2:45. I love that one. It's always a fast one, but it also it stings a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Favorite pre-race meal, Henri? What did you have before your bronze medal in Rio?
I can't remember the dining hall food, but I really enjoy like a good like a pork belly with some good fat on it and avo, and maybe some like pasta or rice, or maybe a pizza on the side, like a small pizza.
A small pizza. What's on the pizza, Henri?
Well, it's maybe like half the size of a normal pizza. Like I know in Japan you get some small ones.
Beautiful. Bedtime and morning time. What's your sleep pattern like?
Usually I try to sleep before 10. If I got something in the morning, I'm up at 5. Otherwise, I'm up at about 7-ish.
Yeah, great. Henri, is there a mantra that you typically will have going through your head when you're racing?
Just process goals. Like, I think that's a big thing for me. Just focus on the moment and not think about too much that's going to happen or coming up, because I think you waste a bit of energy when you're thinking about, say, the last few Ks in the run when you need to think about maybe just hanging on to someone or maybe try and drop them.
Yeah, great. Is there one word you'd use to describe your racing style?
Very aggressive, I think.
Aggressive. Mate, who's the athlete that Henri Schoeman most admires and why?
I think I'll still stick with Javier Gomez.
And why?
If it's in triathlon.
Yep, it can be across any sport.
Yeah, I grew up, watching Javier Gomez winning the triathlons, and being able to meet him is just, he's a really great guy. He's humble. He's down to earth. You wouldn't expect him to have like, I think it's 5 or 6 world championship wins. But yeah, he's super nice, and I think I thrive to be like that, super dominant and still humble and down to earth. I think outside of triathlon, Michael Phelps in swimming, obviously greatest athlete, Olympian of all time. To be able to come back with a comeback in Rio and win more gold medals, I think that's just really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your best recovery tip, Henri?
Ice bath and make sure I get in my amino acids and protein.
Great. How would you describe, Henri, being in the zone for listeners, in Henri's words?
Basically, everything becomes kind of silent. There's nothing really going through your head. You just, there's a lot of pain, but I think it's something that you don't think about a lot when you're in the zone, and it's quite a good feeling, and you only get it when you're really pushing over that limit towards the end of a race, which is kind of cool.
When was the last time you were in the zone, Henri?
I think it was Yokohama. I was really in the zone there, pushing with Mola and those guys in the front.
Yeah, great. Henri, what's the hardest training session you've ever done in your career to date?
Hardest. I think it must be on the track. I've done some really hard ones on the track with hard running. I think it actually might be not on the track, but it's a running session.
Yeah.
I do a couple of these acceleration runs, and I think it might have been this 20K one where every 5K gets faster. The third 5K is about maybe 15-30, and then you do like maybe 2Ks running kind of easy again, and then straight into 400s, pick up that leg speed like you're finishing a race.
And that's called, is that what you term it, an acceleration run, or is that a actual session?
Acceleration run. So yeah,
acceleration, not exhilaration. Yeah. Acceleration. No, sorry, Henry.
Acceleration. Yeah. So you just get quicker and quicker, and that third 5K, you just got to go all out.
Yeah, beautiful. And it is exhilarating when you finish that one, hey?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
You're pretty bugged. Yeah.
Mate, what's the silliest thing that Henri Schoeman's ever done managing an injury?
Geez, I can't even think of... what I can think of is, I think I've had a knee issue. It was in the beginning of last year, and I walked through a shopping center with a knee injury when I should probably be leaving my legs up.
And so you just kept pushing. And what did the knee injury end up being, Henri?
It was kind of weird. I think it might have been muscle related with the abductors and ITB, causing friction with the kneecap.
Yeah. And
I struggled actually for, I think it was 2 months in the beginning of last year. That's why I started off so slow, and it took a little while just to get the muscles loose, and then starting to strengthen them, and that's when it all started getting better.
Yeah, okay, great. Mate, what's the funniest thing you've ever seen while either training or racing? Anything that stands out?
Yeah, I think when my girlfriend is either at a race or traveling with me, she's definitely the loudest screamer you'll ever hear at any given race. Even in Hamburg, in the middle of the crowd, I will hear her. She's a fantastic support, and she's really got a very strong voice.
That's amazing. I always find it fascinating how you can still identify your family's voices out of, as you mentioned there, the crowd of Hamburg, for example, a solid crowd on the triathlon circuit. Terrific.
Yeah, definitely my girlfriend, but because she's super loud. But yeah, in a crowd like Hamburg, you'll struggle to hear maybe your coach or some relatives.
But not Franzel. She's there.
Yeah, you'll hear her.
It's beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Henri, looking ahead, what's on your bucket list, both personally for Henri Schoeman and also within the sport of triathlon?
Definitely want to, start a business on my own. I'm not too sure what it could be yet. And in triathlon, I guess, in South Africa, we have a problem with wildlife and poaching and so we have issues with that, and I really want to get some backing behind some of the wildlife and put a stop to some of the poaching and things like that happening. But it's going to take some time to maybe start something, and I think I've really been giving it some good thought. You
mean like a charity or something to this is obviously a deep passion for you, Henri, the animal welfare.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of financial to start something, and what I really want to do is maybe get some big investors or something that will join me and get behind some of the animals, especially some of the endangered species animals that are being poached, especially like with the rhinos and how their horns are being taken off and how they're killing them, because at the rate they're being killed, they're going to be extinct soon, and that's one of our precious wildlife.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm really touched by that, and I really want to make a difference. I just hope that one day I'll be able to get a strong backing and start a foundation or some sort.
Well, post Rio in South Africa, your profile must have got a good boost, did it?
Yeah, it definitely did. The hype did go down, and I was a little disappointed that it's not as good as what I thought. There were 2 gold medals in athletics, and everything that was around them, and kind of like everyone else was in the shadow. Triathlon got a bit of a boost, but people still don't really think of triathlon that much in South Africa. It's all about the cricket, the rugby, the soccer. Triathlon is very niche in South Africa, so it's unfortunate, but that's also a goal of mine, is to try and
elevate the awareness.
Yeah, exactly, and just educate a lot of the South Africans about triathlon and what it's about, and get involved. If it grows that way, then a lot of people will get more interest, and that way a lot of companies and investors will get involved, and then it will be better for us athletes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know talking with Richard Murray post Super League, Rich said that, getting around his hometown of Durbanville, he is still anonymous, and I found that difficult to believe, but fairly unmistakable character that Rich is. So obviously, you guys keep dominating or doing so well on the world scene, and I think that's bound to happen, mate. What would be your bucket list sporting goals? Obviously, Tokyo 2020 will be on your focus, and then obviously Durban hosting the 2022 Commonwealth Games. And I've also heard that you've got an interest in finding out what you've got in the tank across the marathon and marathon distances in road running, right?
Yeah, I've had some interest in road running. I'm really interested I have a passion for running now. I think it's some people think it's the weirdest thing for a swimmer to have some passion about running, but I really enjoy it. And I think, one day before maybe I go to Ironman, while I maybe still have that speed from running 10K, give it a bash, see how it goes, really give it a try. But definitely Tokyo is on the bucket list. And even the Olympics after that. Durban Commonwealth Games, we have unfortunately lost the bid.
Sorry.
So, yeah, that was really disappointing. I woke up one day, it wasn't too long ago, and I had an email from a journalist asking me on my thoughts on losing the Durban Commonwealth Games. So that was a really bad wake-up.
Oh, gosh.
Because I really wanted to have it would literally be down the road for me. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great city, and, to have a local games would be just awesome, and hopefully I would be in my prime and really firing by then.
Will we see you hopefully on the Gold Coast next year, 2018?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've done enough to qualify. The qualifying ends in November, but they take our criteria as the top 10 ranked in Commonwealth countries, and I think I've done enough to do that.
Yeah, to justify that.
So definitely I'll be there. Hopefully, going for the top spots.
Yeah, come on, awesome, mate. Bringing this in, we've got a few questions and we'll wrap here, Henry. What's one bit of training advice you'd give to listeners across all the learnings you've taken from your career to date, Henry? If you could boil it down to one bit of advice for people to perform at their best, not just in triathlon but across the board, what would it be, Henry? One piece of advice.
I think the most important one is to be consistent. They say consistency is key, and it's definitely right. If you can just keep a constant training load and intensity without going way over the top and then just keep it consistent. Listen to your body, listen to your coach, and just do the right things.
Yeah, simple, beautiful though, isn't it? So practical, but such a timeless truth, which all truths, I guess, are. Henry, a fun question. If you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who would be at Henri Schoeman's dinner table and why?
I think I would love to, definitely a sporting hero like Michael Phelps. Maybe throw some politics into it with Donald Trump. And to really make things interesting, maybe the president from South Africa, Jacob Zuma.
Wow, mate, that is a dynamic table. So that's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you want to say to your president? If you could have one conversation, what would be the message you'd want to deliver?
Do a proper job.
Hello, President, if you're listening in.
He makes some silly decisions. It makes our RAN super weak. He just fires some people without any reason, and then all of a sudden our currency gets super weak, and then with us traveling, it's really bad for us.
Yeah, gosh. So there you go, Mr. President. Please make it easier for Henri and the guys out there traveling, trying to represent the country so well. Henri, every guest issues the listeners of the Physical Performance Show with a physical challenge for the week. It can be very easy or it can be very difficult. It can be a specific session or just something practically for them to do. What's your physical challenge for the week going to be to listeners, Henri?
Oh, I reckon maybe pick a hill, maybe between 300 and 600 meters. I do some hill reps on 300 and 600 meter hills, and just go see how many you can do. It's a really great session. It makes you really fit. It's not too demanding on the legs. Just make sure you go down the hill really easy. And see how many you can do, because I do quite a bit of those, and you pretty much shattered afterwards. So I think it's a great session, and challenge yourself to as many hills as you can do.
So it's got to be a 300 to 600 meter hill, listeners. And if you take on Henri's challenge, listeners, be sure to let Henri and myself know. Tag us in on social. Let us know how you've gone. And with that, Henri, where can listeners follow your journey through the 2017 World Triathlon Series? You're about to race Leeds on the weekend, and beyond through to the Olympic Games. Where can we find you on social, Henri?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page, Henri Schoeman. Give a like there. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also it's something new that I'm going to start. Is I'm going to have a page on my website, and I'm going to be giving some fans or some people getting into triathlon. I'm just going to be giving some weekly tips on maybe some equipment I use, or maybe some training advice. So I'm going to start getting into this, and they should look out on my website for that new page that's going to come out.
Well, listeners, we'll tag up the webpage as Henri cites there, and also all Henri's social media channels. And Henri's definitely a good follow on Instagram. I enjoy your posts, Henri. So jump over,
thanks.
listeners. Look out for the show notes there, and give Henri a follow. And mate, talking about supporters of you, I know you've got a great relationship with ASICS. How did that one come about? Just out of interest, Henri, how did you connect with ASICS?
Yes, that's actually a bit of a story. When I first started running, I was always with ASICS, and I started running with another shoe company, and I actually started getting a lot of peroneal issues and ankle issues. So eventually I came back to ASICS, and it kind of like everything went back to normal, like it all got sorted. So, it's definitely a shoe brand that I believe in 100%. And from there, I told them my story. ASICS South Africa decided to get partner with me on a small level, and I've been really fortunate with that because it's some great shoes. And since Rio, it's been a bigger partnership, which is really, really great. And it's some of the best shoes, I think.
I mean, I'm a big fan, Henri, of the new flight foam technology with the ASICS, and I saw you sporting several pairs there at Super League, so they do make a great shoe, ASICS.
Yeah, just like they say, don't run, fly.
Yeah, come on, and I think you're a great poster boy for that, Henri. I put a bit of video actually up on my Instagram gallery of you warming up there at Super League, and you were certainly flying those ASICS shoes, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys were struggling on that last day with the grip because of the rain.
Yep.
And my shoes were just super grippy and really good, so I had no worries.
And you still had to have the engine to drive them though, right? So you're a good combination, Asics and Henri Schoeman. Mate, you are certainly an athlete that's exciting to watch. I think we've just seen a little of what you're capable of, Henri. I think the road ahead for you is going to be very, very rewarding and exciting for you. So, mate, I certainly, for one, wish you all the best going forwards onto Rio, hopefully not going back there, onto Tokyo 2020 and beyond, and looking forward to seeing you here on the Gold Coast again in 2018. And mate, just want to wish you all the best and say thanks for your time ahead of this weekend's round of the World Triathlon Series in Leeds.
Oh yeah, thanks, Brad. I think it's just the beginning. I hope there's really a lot more to come.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Henri Schoeman, Olympic bronze medalist in the sport of triathlon. And if you did, please let both Henri and myself know. You'll find our social media handles over on the show notes, which can be found at pogophysio.com.au. If you take on Henri's physical challenge for the week, be sure to let us know also. And any feedback, guys, means the world. So I know it does for the guests that so generously share their time to appear on the Physical Performance Show. So please take a moment to drop us a note and let us know one thing that you took away from it. Likewise, if you've been enjoying the program, please do one of two things. One, leave a review on iTunes. It helps this show get more highly indexed inside the iTunes algorithm, which in turn helps more people discover it. And likewise, and that's real simple to do, listeners, simply a matter of going to iTunes, clicking ratings and review and rating away. 1 star or 5 stars, whatever it may be, any rating is great news for iTunes. The second way that you can help is to share this. If you know a triathlete, or someone that's aspiring to do the sport of triathlon, or someone that's just looking to get the most out of themselves physically, you can simply, from any smartphone, click the bottom of an episode inside an app, such as iTunes or SoundCloud, and share the episode. So share it around, spread the word. That would be fantastic. I know I'd definitely appreciate it, and Henri would appreciate it also. So thank you in advance, listeners. Massive thank you to the two good folk that make this show possible week in and week out, and that's none other than Mr. Daryl Misson and also Susan Wilkins. Susan, the show's VA, and of course Daryl, the amazing audio technician. Lastly, if you're into running, you can now pick up your copy of my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free. It's available now on Audible and iBooks, so you can run and learn at the same time. You Can Run Pain-Free is also available in Kindle versions, and of course the good old paperback. It's a 330 plus page book, and it can be shipped internationally through Amazon or domestically through Amazon, or of course POGO Physio, where you can find it online. Coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I catch up with Mr. Brent McMahon. Now, I've decided we'd keep the triathlon theme going, so we're rolling from an Olympic medalist with Henri Schoeman through to Brent McMahon, who himself has been a dual Olympian at the 2004 Olympic Games and then again in the 2012 London Olympic Games. And that is Brent. Brent's career is a remarkable one inside the sport of triathlon. He's a Canadian who has had success across the Olympic distances of racing, but then has gone on to experience success in a rather unprecedented way across the Ironman triathlon distance. On Brent's debut, just to give you an insight into the world of Ironman triathlon, he set the fastest ever time by a rookie, clocking up an impressive 7 hours, 55 minutes, 48 seconds in Ironman Arizona. And off the back of that, Brent's gone on to record a further 3 sub-8 hour Ironman triathlon finishes, including a 2:40 marathon off the bike in Ironman Arizona in 2016. So Brent McMahon, I met Brent up at Super League in 2017, the year of this recording, and immediately spent a bit of time with Brent as he succumbed to a nasty thumb injury, which he references on next week's episode that he required surgery for. So If you're into triathlon, I know you probably are if you're listening to today's episode, or if you're not, you just enjoy physical performance and being inspired by the world's best, then be sure to tune in next week with Mr. Brent McMahon on episode 66. Until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.